I know I'm 6 months late to this party, but fuck it, I'm gonna do it. Appreciate the lengthy response. This comment is responding to something that Steve said in the video where I was being censored by whiny incels. I'm not quite going to bat for anybody though. Neither one of them seem like great people. Well, here's the thing. I don't look like a great person because of shit that happened almost a decade ago, whereas Neon is openly caught doing a lot of this shit that he's been doing it for years. It's not even like he's apologized and genuinely tried to be better in recent years. He's been this way the entirety of his internet tenure. It seems like everything he's done on social media, from the moment he got the account to the moment he's uploaded fairly recently, from what I've seen, it's basically just been him trying to promote horrible shit. And then the worst part is, like, whenever you think he's just fucking with you, he proves that he's ride or die for this shit, regardless of what anyone says for the matter. I'm willing to believe that Gage was doxxed. He seems like an easy target for trolls. Well, realistically, anyone can be an easy target if it seems like they have anything at all that matters to them or have some kind of significance in their life. Usually the same people that go after anyone at all for any stupid, minute reason. It's usually the same motherfucker that has nothing at all going for them, so they fill up their empty time by being a harassing douche. But that's beside the point. I'm willing to believe Gage was doxxed. He seems like, let's see, I've been doxxed. It's unpleasant. Well, thank you for telling everyone that it's unpleasant. It's not like any of us could already understand the mere principle of doxing itself sounds unpleasant. It's a self-explanatory feeling. On the other hand, I've also had false pedo accusations lobbed against me, and I can visibly see Gage engaging in this behavior of lobbing serious accusations like that with little to no proof. Excuse me. It's kind of hard to read this because the text is very small. Here's the thing, I'm not lobbing accusations though. Just because I don't have the screenshots on hand doesn't mean I don't have them at all. It just means I have to ask around for other people who actually caught that shit on film. I mean, here's the thing. You wanted proof? Let me give you the proof. This right here is a screenshot of Cranium99, aka Neon Penguin's Twitter feed, where it shows him openly posting Shotokan and resharing it, and actively bragging about that he would do the same thing with a future son. But remember, he's totally not a weird fucking creepy pedo when he's like an 18-year-old man, openly saying that he would want to have a child just so he could sexually molest them. Remember, totally not a fucking predator. Alright, here we go. Censoring comments is another major red flag for someone that's trying to hide something and or control the narrative. It's not that I'm trying to hide something or control the narrative, it's just that I don't like having shit from almost a decade ago thrown in my face like clockwork whenever some whiny cunt has a problem with me, for seemingly no reason that has to do with that particular situation. It's one thing if you simply say, I don't like what you did, I find it to be awfully shitty. However, you're literally digging years into the past to find something and then belt me with it because you're mad about something else. I understand that you might be responding this way because it could be just a trauma response because you feel like someone is being lambasted the same way that you were unjustifiably attacked, if I am to take your word at face value, which, for the sake of argument, I will entertain the notion that you were falsely accused. But the fact is, you're falsely accusing me right now as well. Your own trauma response is also doing the same thing that you claim you want other people to be defended from. It's not that I wish to censor comments, it's just that I don't want to keep reliving that moment over and over and over and over and over and over and over again ad fucking nauseum. If people want to look at me and say, I don't like what you did, I find it very shitty, I completely agree, that is fine. If you don't like it, neither do I. I've openly said that I have a lot of great disappointment in myself for being able to stoop that fucking low at that particular time. But keep in mind this was 7 years ago. That's nearly a decade ago. I've taken great pains to mature and cultivate a better mental health space for myself so that I'm not constantly frustrated and stressed out and angry about shit to the point where I'm willing to let my anger get the better of me regardless of the consequences. Things are very different than when they were at that given time, and I don't know why it is people are so desperate to act like it's not. It's like, well, you're still the same person. Just because I'm the same person physically doesn't mean I haven't grown up and tried to be better. It just means that people decide that I must be the same person so they can justify their fucking hate boner for me. I'd rather people just say, look, I think what you did is shitty, but realistically, what's the point of talking to you about it now, years down the fucking road? Especially if it's not relevant to the entire situation at all. That's that's what my cowardly accuser did. Hid me from his comments. Well, I just don't want to have to relive those moments because it's unpleasant having some dickhead that I don't even know, who I've never heard of, randomly trying to accuse me of being a predator and shit like that over stupid bullshit that happened 7 fucking years ago. And this fucking respect, you're being the same person that you accused me of being, except you're being this with an even less reasonable reason as to why. Because instead of giving me ample time to supply evidence, you basically just sat there and talked shit about my production values and more or less implied that I was a fucking predator. I'm obviously going to take exception to that. Being a survivor of CSA myself, I don't particularly find it very funny. And you might not have known that. I'm going to give you that wiggle room that you probably didn't know. But the fact is, I'm not that kind of fucking person. I was just an asshole that did something stupid. And I will never pretend that what I did was fine. It wasn't. But the fact is, that doesn't make me a predator. It just means I was an asshole that did something dumb. Unfortunately, the only evidence I've seen so far makes Gage look worse, look like the worst of the two, because the evidence I've seen is the other dude feels like edgy, distasteful jokes that seem to be made for the sole intent of upsetting people like you and Gage. Now, you could argue that those things are edgy jokes if it wasn't for the fact that this guy was very, very, very cavalier about promoting his beliefs about being a pro-pedophile until everyone started calling his ass for it, and then he started scrubbing all of his stuff left and right. It didn't help the fact that my last channel had a bunch of responses to him archiving a lot of the shit that he said, and had those videos still been around instead of that channel being deleted, I could probably provide a lot more. But I'm going to have to ask around and see if someone might have archived those videos. As I've said, I can respect your motives if you're coming at it from a place of, I just didn't want someone else to get crucified over shit that's not true. But then at the same time, you also want to entertain the same notion that you claim you want to protect someone else from. By essentially trying to propagate the notion that I'm a predator because I point out someone that actually posted this, like they posted the shit that was screen capped that was shown just a little bit ago. And I entertain the notion that you didn't know I had that and that I did not show that to you. But the fact is, you shouldn't immediately be trying to act like, oh, you're hiding something. It's not that I'm hiding something. It's just that I want to be able to move on from stupid shit that I did years ago. I want to be able to move forward and be on this platform and people be able to say, you know what, I don't like what you did. I think what you did was really shitty and fucked up. But it seems like you've changed. It seems like you've really taken stock about what your life was like and what you were doing to yourself and why your behavior wasn't great. It seems like you've actually taken great time to improve and try to be a better person. Like, I'd much rather hear people give a balanced take about what my online tenure has been than this shit where it's like, well, I'm just going to come at you with a bunch of bad faith bullshit because it's the only thing I can say to justify my opinion is literally just to look at shit from years ago and hope that I happen to be right. I mean, I'd rather just have you say, fuck what you did years ago, that was fucking shitty. But to me, it also seems like you've changed. And even if I don't like what you did, I can at least acknowledge the fact that it seems like you've tried to be a better person, and it looks like you've kind of sorted yourself out. But people like you usually don't do that because you've decided that one moment of someone's internet tenure has to be the entire moment of their presence on the site, regardless of any sort of personal growth or maturity that has happened in years that were like in years prior. Because you've more or less decided that that's irrelevant because people like you usually just say, well, once a piece of shit, always a piece of shit. And that's basically how you look at everyone. Now, I could be wrong. I'll give you the fucking leeway that I could be wrong and that I could just be misinterpreting how you're approaching this. But I have a hard time believing that I am. I have a hard time believing that I'm somehow misinterpreting you. Because it seems like when someone like you comes along, especially given your standing. I mean, 15,000 is nothing to scoff at. But you're coming at someone with less than 1,000 and then less than 400, trying essentially to bring things up from the past that could be used to crucify Steve and myself, respectively. Steve for maintaining an association and myself for doing something years ago. And yet, for some reason, I am not to take exception to that. I am somehow not supposed to take exception to the fact that you have people apparently floating around, circulating shit from years ago to try to demonize me. And the worst part is, you never asked me what that whole thing was about. You never tried to question what it was that led up to that. I'm not going to defend it. I'm not going to pretend that I was in the right because I obviously wasn't. But the fact is, you automatically attacked me over that shit in bad faith. As someone who seems to believe that he is an intelligent, level headed man, it would stand to reason that you yourself would also like to exemplify that intelligence and level headedness, but by being willing to actually have a real conversation about the matter. But to me, it just doesn't seem like you were interested in the conversation. To me, you were just so drawn by your trauma response that you immediately just had like a knee-jerk reaction of saying that the accuser must be lying because the accuser is X, Y, and Z. No. In this particular situation, me standing in the role of the accuser, it's not me accusing someone to get fucking heat off me. It's me pointing out the fact that the person that's constantly trying to act like the victim of every situation that he orchestrates around himself is also the same kind of person who's openly admitted to having predatory behaviors and traits towards children. That is not me pretending that I didn't do anything wrong. That is not me trying to pretend that my actions were not really fucking inexcusable during that given time years ago. It's just the fact is that I'm not that kind of person. And I would just greatly appreciate it if the people that keep trying to bring that shit up every other day would go fuck themselves. Because a person doesn't have to be what they were years ago just so you can be right.